Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind. We gotta tackle some clown world nonsense today. You know, very often I'll point to Canada as being the mecca of everything woke. I say if you want to see the future, if you want to see where things are going, then just take a look at Justin Trudeau's government, take a look at what's going on in Canada. But it seems as though no longer will I be able to say that. Justin Trudeau's time seems to be up. A huge conservative shift, a rising conservative culture is growing in the country like never before. And so I guess we need a new country. We need a new country to point at. Well, folks, it's been obvious since the start. In fact, arguably, this place may have been more woke than Canada all along. It's just kind of a nation that flies under the radar, especially considering it's part of, a little bit of a nation alliance under the UK. We're talking about Ireland, the place that was burning last week. Ireland is a country in decline. Ireland is a country headed full force, full speed, straight into communist authoritarian rule. Sounds crazy, I know, and people probably living in Ireland are asking themselves, well, what the hell is this guy talking about? Well, it starts off slow. It starts off with the little things. You guys started with cultural Marxism that you bought into hook, line, and sinker. The Irish government became the mecca of anti-whiteism. I played you guys this clip the other day. Let's play it again.
One thing I strongly agree with the Deputy on is the need to set a target to have a number of people from ethnic minorities in areas of the public service. We have a health service that's very diverse, although less so as you go up towards the senior positions, not so much in the Gardaí, not so much in the Defence Forces, not so much in the education sector, as the Deputy mentioned, not at all in the civil service, which is very white, including the Department of Equality, for example, and that actually needs to change.
It became the land of the woke. And where does that lead every single time, 10 out of 10 times? Well, of course, we know communist authoritarianism. Folks, Ireland is collapsing, and it's no real surprise why. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, it always starts off with the little things, right? We just want less white people, because white people bad, genocide, colonialism, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it a million times before. It always starts off with that, compassion, we care about the peoples. And then, of course, the next step is always government control and always suppression of speech to protect the government from fed-up citizens. We saw riots in Dublin recently. It started off as a protest and of course eventually turned into a riot. It's hard to say exactly what happened. Of course there were some bad actors, but the point is, at least the point of the protest, was to challenge open border policies. Considering the increase in violent terrorist acts in the nation, people are fed up. Well, what does a wannabe communist regime do when the people are fed up? They label you as extremists, they label you as a problem, as a threat, and pass a bill to try to censor you. Ireland anti-hate law pushed in wake of Dublin riots could criminalize memes and poses free speech concerns. Ireland's government is newly pushing an anti-hate speech law in the wake of riots that came in response to the stabbing of a woman and 3 children outside of a primary school in Dublin. Language being proposed as law in Ireland means that this could literally happen to you for having a meme on your phone, Elon Musk wrote. Responding to another user who posted a gif of a police raid, critics are widely slamming the legislation over free speech concerns. Ireland was trending on Musk's X on Monday as text circulated of the bill targeting any offense of preparing or possessing material likely to incite violence or hatred against a person on an account of their protected characteristics. Protected characteristics listed in the bill include national or ethnic origin, as well as transgender and gender other than those of male and female. According to users, the legislation was kept intentionally vague and suggests people could be jailed for having certain memes saved to their phones or merely being found in possession of books or videos deemed politically offensive. Yeah, that's literally the point. Let's have a conversation about, guidelines on YouTube, for instance. They are written in a way that is intensely vague, and that is done purposely. That allows YouTube to basically arbitrarily, do whatever they want. It's the old communist shtick, they can find the person and then attribute the crime later on. The rules or the guidelines on the platform are written so intently vague that they can be interpreted in so many wild ways. This is the exact same thing the Irish government is trying to do. Offensive speech that may incite violence or may target another group. Listed protected groups, pretty much everybody who isn't white, yada yada, we get it. Absolute freaking clowns. And then an Irish senator went viral for essentially saying the quiet part out loud.
When you think about it, all law, all legislation is about the restriction of freedom. That's exactly what we're doing here, is we are restricting freedom, but we're doing it for the common good. You will see throughout our constitution, yes, you have rights, but they are restricted for the common good. Everything needs to be balanced. And if your views on other people's identities go to make their lives unsafe, insecure, and cause them such deep discomfort that they cannot live in peace, then I believe that it is our job as legislators to restrict those freedoms for the common good.
We are restricting freedom for the common good. Does that sound familiar? Irish people, you better pay attention and pay attention quick, because you will lose your damn country. You will lose your freedoms fast. Your government is attempting to pass a bill that would allow them to criminalize speech and memes, that would allow them to say, well, anything questioning our policies or challenging our policies in relation to immigration from certain countries, or policies relating to trans people or any other protected class as listed or deemed by the government, anything, any meme that may be slightly controversial can now be deemed illegal. They will throw you in jail. It's like Count Dankula. It's the same damn thing. What they're essentially doing here is doubling down on the way the Count Dankula situation was handled. Now I know, that was the Scottish government. Now we're talking about Ireland, two entirely different countries, but I'm just saying it's the Count Dankula situation being normalized or justified, attempting to write it into law. That if you make a joke that's deemed offensive, if you make a joke that people complain about, if you say something on Twitter that somebody finds offensive or somebody deems as a danger, violence being committed on them, the police are going to show up at your door and arrest you, and you will face a lengthy criminal trial. Pay attention, people of Ireland. You will lose your country. This is fascism under the guise of compassion and caring and protecting marginalized people. It is absolutely absurd, and it's a snowball effect. If you give an inch, they will take a mile. If you allow the government to enact subversive anti-free speech laws, you think it's just going to end there? Pretty soon, you won't be able to say anything. The government will have absolute control over what speech is acceptable and what is not. This has been kind of like an overview of the whole topic. Let's actually delve into the bill itself and delve into the language. I think that's quite important. Just take a look at how this is written. We've got offensive preparing or possessing material likely to incite violence or hatred against a person's on account of their protected characteristics. So the incitement to violence thing is one thing. To a certain extent that makes sense. If you're inciting violence, that should absolutely be illegal. But inciting hatred against a person, that is very vague. That's not specific at all. And the way hate is listed these days, that could literally be somebody saying, hey, you as a biological male, I disagree. I don't believe that you should be competing in female sports. I don't believe that it's okay for you to be held in a women's prison. Well, that could be deemed as hatred. If the other individual or if enough people make enough noise, you could be done. You could be in freaking prison. That's how trash this law is. Or hatred against a person's on account of their protected characteristics. Why is the government stepping in to protect people from offensive words? It makes absolutely no sense. Let's continue reading though. Subject to subsections 2 and 3 and section 11, a person shall be guilty of an offense under this section if the person prepares or possesses material that is likely to incite violence or hatred against a person or a group of persons on account of their protected characteristic or any of those characteristics with a view to the material being communicated to the public or a section of the public, whether by himself or herself or another person. So essentially, if you share a meme that the Irish government deems as offensive towards a protected person or a person of a protected group or person of protected characteristics, you're now guilty of a crime. Prepares or possesses such materials with intent to incite violence or hatred against such a person or group of persons on account of those characteristics or any of those characteristics, or being reckless as to whether such violence or hatred is thereby incited. What does that even mean? So if you post a meme and then some violent act happens, it's now your fault? Or you're somehow part of the incitement to violence? None of this makes any sense, and you should be able to tell that it's written like this on purpose. Laws like this should not exist. Ever. Offensive speech should never be deemed illegal. Hatred, for Pete's sake, shouldn't be deemed illegal. We can't start policing emotions. We can't start policing people's personal opinions and views. And we all know that this law is full of crap and it's going to be used or enforced in a very, very despicably biased manner. I mean, reading the bill itself, I could think of a whole lot of woke anti-white racism that fits the bill completely. I wonder if the Irish government is going to be going after anti-white hatred or memes or posts online. Obviously not. Only protected groups, which means everyone but white people. They're essentially attempting to make it illegal to make racial jokes or insensitive jokes or controversial claims and comments relating to particular groups. That obviously cannot stand, that isn't just, that isn't equal, that is tyranny. This is a blatant anti-free speech law that can be used and abused and manipulated by the government to go after their political opponents, to go after right-wingers, essentially, and white people, and that simply cannot be allowed to stand. It's the exact same process every time. It starts off with more compassion, and it leads to authoritarianism. It leads to horrible laws being passed, which strip away your freedoms one by one. Every time. But it's for the common good. It's because we cares about the peoples. Give me a break. It's about power. They want to control you, and you can't let them do it. Ireland, you guys are at a crossroads right now. You have two paths. There's the path of 1776, and there's the path of 1984. Make a decision, because if you don't, the government's going to make that decision for you. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, friends, and I will see you on the next one.